Frak, this podcast, come and listen to us talk about Battlestar Galactica. It's a show that we're talking about. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the Frak, this podcast. I am your disheveled host, Jesse Gender. And I'm joined, as always, by...
It's Vera, who actually remembered that we were appearing on camera today, whereas somebody else, despite reminding me this morning, forgot.
I completely forgot, because, yeah, I am looking not as nice. I am wearing just a literal t-shirt. And you look all pretty and beautiful, if I do say.
And sunburned. I was on vacation over the week.
Yeah. Well, look at you. I got a vacation. So, yeah. Well, it is good to see you. How have you been? How was your vacation?
Tiring. Good, but tiring. Because it was a family vacation that we do every year. So there was stuff. It wasn't a relaxing vacation.
Yeah. I know exactly.
But it was nice. The one thing that always annoys me about this is my good headphones do fully cover my ears, so I can't wear earrings, which means I'm going to have to show these off separately. I went with my boyfriend to a queer craft fair, and I got these earrings.
Oh, that's nice. What is that, a bone?
That is a bone. That is a real bone. That is not 3D printed.
Oh, interesting. A bone of what? A human bone?
I believe it's a femur. I'm not entirely sure what from. If I were to guess, I'd say large rodent.
So your own species, then. That's a bit weird. I called her a large rodent, everybody. Hey, now you can see the click on camera. Well, yeah, that sounds good. Anything else fun?
No, not too much. Because I spent the week prior to the vacation trying to get far enough ahead to be able to take the vacation, and now I'm back from the vacation, and now I have to do all the work to be sure I don't fall behind because I took a vacation.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't. You didn't miss much. I've just been working this entire time, so I've been going to the gym more, which is nice. I've been trying to get to the gym more, but that's really about it. Trying to get swole so I can punch some Nazis in the face.
Oh, always a good goal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't been to the theater. I haven't seen Fantastic Four or Naked Gun or anything like that.
I did see Naked Gun. Was very high for it, which is the best way to watch it.
Probably appropriate, yeah.
Yes, it was actually very, very good. Dumb, but I will say, and this is not a spoiler, it's right from the top, it is very anti-cop, and very also, surprisingly, very anti-Elon Musk, which I did not expect, but very much appreciated. So, yeah, it was, and actually very smart in a dumb way. It was dumb jokes, but there's a little bit of, smart critique in there within all the dumb humor, which I appreciated, so.
I still haven't seen it, but I think it was Todd in the Shadows tweeted this that I kind of snickered at. It's it's amazing how refreshing it is to see a movie do jokes.
Yes.
Not riffs, not sarcasm, actual setup and punchline jokes.
Mm-hmm. It was legitimate. There's one bit in it that I nearly died at. It goes on. It's one of those bits that goes on for way too long, and I was literally crying with laughter. I nearly passed out by how funny it was. So.
I might prioritize that over Fantastic Four.
I mean, frankly, I wouldn't say that's a bad move, to be honest. I saw Fantastic Four as well. I will say I liked a lot of it. But it is a bit more there's some stuff and I'm okay. I mean, it's not bad, but it's okay, that's fine. But it didn't knock my socks off in a lot of ways. It's not as good as Superman, I'll put it that way. So I'm
not expecting it to be.
But it was solid enough. There is one thing that bugs the ever-loving crap out of me, though, and it's a science thing. There's one sequence that I won't spoil, but they're in a spaceship, and they're accelerating, but, in the spaceship, they're floating around, and it's actually a point like it's like, oh, we don't have gravity right now, but I'm like, you're accelerating in this sequence, like you would be thrown back in your seat, you wouldn't be floating around. Bugged the hell out of me. It wouldn't have been that big a deal if it wasn't a plot point, but it is like a plot point that they're floating around the ship while they're accelerating, and I'm like, that makes no goddamn sense, and it bugs me. So yeah, yep. But that's
Turn your science brain off, bitch.
I know. The other thing too with it is I didn't intend this. I went to a theater that had those like D-box seats, the ones that move and stuff.
Oh yeah, I've never
done it too, and I actually didn't know that was going to be the case. I bought a ticket. I'm like, this is weird how expensive this is, because usually Erin, my partner, she's the one that buys the tickets for us, and I buy the concessions. That's how we split it up. And I bought this one, and I was like, oh, this is weirdly expensive. And then I'm like, oh, it's because it's the D-box one. And I actually I would not do it for like an indie movie, but for like a Marvel movie where I don't like I'm not like super like, oh, I want to be like invested in, not distracted or whatever. It's like a big blockbuster thing. I actually found it to be a lot of fun. It was like a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Like when Galactic shows up, like this chair rumbled or whatever. And I was like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. So.
Sure, why not?
It was fun. I enjoyed it. Again, I wouldn't do it for like, I wouldn't do it for like The Materialists or whatever, but for like, a Marvel movie, I thought it was pretty fun. So, yeah. Anyways, speaking of Marvel movies, No, I got it. Speaking of movies that will have villains that come back that were resurrected, like Robert Downey. No, that doesn't work. Like, I was going to make a Robert Downey Jr. coming back like a Phoenix, but then it's Pegasus. I don't know. Because it was Flight of the Phoenix last week. Yeah. Anyways.
I don't normally click you for bad transitions, but that was such a disaster.
Of course, it's the one caught on camera, too. But anyways, this week we are talking about the episode Pegasus. But before we get to that, we have to talk about some comments from last week's episode, Flight of the Phoenix. So we got, and I actually have it prepped here, let's see, Aonkas1221. I am sorry, I totally mispronounced your name. But they said, though of course there are two films with the same title around rebuilding a plane, referring to Flight of the Phoenix, I always took this as Ronald D. Moore's poke at Star Trek Voyager and the Delta Flyer and the ease with which that was assembled and reassembled. So yeah, that if you don't know, in Voyager, they do this whole episode where they're technically in the Delta Quadrant, away from like all ability to get like materials or whatever, and yet
I know the premise, and I know that they don't.
Yeah, and they like have whole episodes being like, we don't have enough resources, but then they like literally make an entire shuttle, like a special shuttle, like it's like everyone's chipping together to make this shuttle, similar to what they did in the Battlestar Galactica episode. But then it like gets destroyed at one point, and then and then like 2 episodes later, it's suddenly back. Like they have like an offhand line. It's like, oh, we rebuilt it, and I'm like, okay. So yeah, it's,
with what?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's silly. Let's see. Pearl May says, since T-word and T-slur are taken, and we're talking human-looking robots, how about the T2 slur? Which I think is kind of funny. Yeah, the T-file, and it's always accessing the T-file, not using or saying. So it points out the irony of humans revealing that they're just as programmed as Cylons are. Oh, I think that works. Someone else commented, Super Laser 8559 said, best intro ever, because of my lovely singing of the Battlestar Galactica theme in that episode.
I need to decide how often I want to do that.
Mm-hmm. And then I thought it was funny. But I
thought it was funny too. That's why I did it.
Jamie Smith 3396 says, I think Jesse is probably right about the oxygen argument, about like with them like Starbuck and Apollo still being able to breathe. Training your body to handle low oxygen environments is definitely a thing, and the fact that Apollo and Starbuck are burning more oxygen shouldn't affect how long they can stay conscious that much, since they are sharing the same air as everyone else in the room. So there you go.
That sentence makes no sense.
What? Why? There was also another one there was someone that said, oh, I think, and that, why when doesn't that make sense? Training your body to handle low oxygen environments is definitely a thing, and the fact that Apollo and Starbuck are burning more oxygen shouldn't affect how long they stay conscious that much, since they are sharing the same air as everyone else. I think
okay, by that argument, the other guy shouldn't have passed out first either. They should have all passed out at the same time.
No. Sorry, I think there is a mistake in the sentence. And the fact that Apollo are burning more oxygen, it should be Apollo and Starbuck aren't burning more oxygen. They're actually burning less oxygen because they're trained.
No, but they're burning more because they're talking. Talking burns more oxygen. It just does.
Yeah, but it should burn more oxygen for everyone in the room.
Okay. So they should all be passing out at the same fucking time.
Not if Starbuck and Apollo are trained to be able to handle more low oxygen environments. That's what I'm saying.
Get to the other comment.
The other comment, this is from Arsenal, says, I think Vera wins the O2 argument on logic. Jesse, though, the devil has heard your many advocacies and is offering full-time employment for this one.
Thank you, Arsenal. I appreciate it.
I'm just saying, the debate rages on.
Oh,
Get in the comments. Anyways.
They did already!
Do it again. Fight it out. Duke it out for me. Well, maybe we should test it. I'll do training to see if I can hold my breath, and then we'll go into a low oxygen environment, and then we'll just talk and see who passes out first.
I don't know. I'm just thinking about the capacity of my chest. I think I might have an inherent advantage on you here.
We'll see. All right, let us get into our recap of Pegasus. And for listeners, I think I said this somewhere else, but just to note, we are going to be recapping the extended version of Pegasus, the 1 hour version, not the aired 45-minute version or whatever it is. So there's like 15 more minutes of extra footage. The story behind that, for anyone who's curious, I did look it up because I was curious about why there's an extended version. Initially, they were going to do, I think, a 2 hour, might have been 90 minutes, but either a 90-minute or 2 hour version that was going to air. But as they were writing it, they realized that they did not have enough story to fill that amount of time. So they debated whether or not they were going to they filmed everything they had written, and then they sort of debated, well, are we just going to air the length that we have, or are we going to go back to a regular? And ultimately, I think the Sci-Fi Channel just said go to 44 minutes. So they cut out an act of stuff, but they still had all the footage for the extended version.
That was going to be my question. Like, did they remove like full scenes, or did they nickel and dime it?
I don't know for sure. I'd have to go and look at it. From what I could tell, they like nickeled and dimed it and figured out like where they could like remove stuff to make it all fit. So theoretically, everything in here is still treated contextually as canon. So like, it's not bad that we watched the extended edition version over another one, because they did ultimately release it, I think, on like the DVD or whatever. But technically, this is not the one that aired. So
all right,
yeah,
duly noted.
There will be another episode like that as well, in season 3. Yeah, in season 3, there'll be another extended episode. I don't know if there's a difference. When we get there, I'll look up if there was like a similar reasoning if something else happened, but there was an extended episode for season 3. So, all right. Well, we start off the episode with Starbuck in a room with Adama and Roslyn, and she's sort of articulating her plan to try and rescue the Resistance from Caprica. She has this whole fleet of
nice to see that brought up, actually. I knew that it would come back eventually, but it's nice to see it brought up as something that Starbuck at least is trying to get done before we eventually get around to doing it, because like, I don't know, if we go another 5 episodes before they circle back onto this, my immediate question would have been, took you long enough, didn't it? So it's nice to have this little reminder, like, no, she is trying to get the movie on that. It's just other stuff happens.
Yes. And also she's coming up against resistance to her plan, because basically Roslyn points out, it's like, your plan would leave us vulnerable because all that would be left would be 7 Vipers and 1 Raptor to protect the fleet. And then Adama also brings up the thing of it would take 241 jumps to reach Caprica, and that's conservative. And, every jump, there's a possibility of navigational error, so it'll take twice that amount of time to find Caprica, if we can, let alone if we can find it. So...
yeah, which I had to ponder on, because it'd be like, wait, how'd you get to it last time? That I had to remember, oh, right, it was in the Cylon Raider.
Exactly. So that would allow her to get there a little bit faster. presumably.
Yeah.
So, yep. So yeah, that is an interesting point. And yeah, so Starbucks arguing for this is like, we have to try. And Rosalind's like, I have respect for what you're trying to do. And Starbucks starts getting angry. We have a duty to those who are left behind. But Adama sort of shuts her down by saying, Kara, like just like flatly, like sort of like says, hey, you're going a little bit too far. But then before the conversation continues, they get calls to action stations because something's coming in.
Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm. So I just noted I liked this whole scene of like, Starbuck being like, hey, I want, like, she's like very focused on the mission and everyone's like, we have larger concerns on stuff.
I appreciate it in a show when they can remember what the characters want, even in the episodes that are not about them getting what they want, because otherwise it makes it feel like the characters kind of exist like vacuums. What you run into otherwise is you run into the problem with Hilo on fucking Caprica last season, where it's like he's vacuum sealed between scenes.
It's like, oh yeah, we haven't had any conversations between these things, like no one's ever talked about it. We haven't had more thoughts.
Yeah. And like, again, as I said, especially if this is a plot point you're not going to address now, reminding us that the characters have not forgotten in the meantime is a good thing to do.
Yes. Well, we then get a scene that basically Dom and everyone goes up to the bridge, and they believe that there is a Cylon base star coming in because the large ship is there. And so they launch Vipers, Apollo, and a few others go out. And they start getting colonial transponders, and they start questioning, like, oh, is this the Cylons using, like Ty says they're using their own signals against us, but Adama's sort of questioning it. They have them send recognition codes, and it says it's they're in the message that they get. It says this is the Battlestar Pegasus to the ship pretending to be the Galactica. So they're both suspicious of each other.
Ship claiming.
Yes, I think it's
claiming. It didn't say pretending; it said claiming. So it was doubtful, but it wasn't accusative.
I thought it was pretending. I might be.
I think you are misremembering that.
Let me see.
Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna check.
Yeah, all right. Well, we'll see. But anyways, they do get colonial recognition codes, and they are authentic. And then we cut over to the Pegasus's bridge, where we see Admiral Kane and the crew of the Pegasus saying, "Adama, is that you?" This, I don't know what to say. This is a miracle. And it should be noted, Kane is played by the wonderful Michelle Forbes, who many people in Star Trek may know from Star Trek The Next Generation as Ensign Ro.
That's where I freaking knew her from. Jeez.
Mm-hmm. She is Ensign Ro and kick ass because Michelle Forbes is awesome. So.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you wrote that. I obviously didn't look far enough back in her filmography because I didn't go back that far.
Mm-hmm. Well, while you're doing that, I'm curious about
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
No, you're right. It's claiming.
Yeah.
You were correct. I wrote pretending. I thought it was pretending, but yeah, claiming. You're right.
Nope.
All right. Well, anyways, Apollo also says before we cut to the opening thing, it's like a dream, and so it's like sleek and sexy. We get a sleek and sexy look at the Battlestar Pegasus. Clearly a much newer model.
Honestly, I did not notice the difference that much on the exterior shot because it's part of this has to do with the handheld thing. Like between the handheld thing and it is a dark shadowed ship against space with the same general shape. It did not stand out. Like when we get to the interiors, I see the difference. Absolutely. The exterior shot of the ship did not jump out to me at all.
Really, because it looked different to me. Like it's brighter. It's a brighter color. It's got a sort of slightly sleeker design. I noticed the difference, but yeah. Anyways, you're just wrong. Also, should note we had it was an interesting music choice during this opening bit too, like this sitar kind of thing going on that was kind of interesting. So I thought it was a cool music choice. So
I didn't notice.
Yeah. Also, another thing to notice is during the theme song, the number of survivors jumped up about 2,000. So it was like 47,000 something. Now it's 49,000 now that we found the Pegasus. So.
Yeah, we'll see how long that holds.
Mm-hmm. We shall see. We then get back to the Galactica. We see Admiral Kane and a bunch of her staff are coming aboard the Galactica on a Raptor. Adama, Ty, and Roslin are walking down to the bay together. And, Rosalind sort of asks about Kane. Do you know her? And Adama says she's a young officer, smart, tough, and connected. She was promoted to rear admiral over half of half of the fleet that were when am I blanking on the word? Able to be promoted. I'm blanking on the word. Qualified.
There were people due ahead of her. She jumped the line.
Yes, because she was connected. Nepo baby of some sort or of some type. A bunch of people come out of the ship, and Kane comes out and salutes Adama, and then they shake hands. Adama presents Rosalind as the president of the colonies, and Kane is kind of a little bit surprised by that, but then she says, like, it's a long story. Kane also knows Baltar. It says, hello, Dr. Baltar, probably just by reputation.
Everybody knows Baltar.
Yes. And then she says, welcome back to the colonial fleet, to which everyone goes and celebrates. And Adama says to her, sorry for all this. And she says, no, it's good to see you. So.
Yeah. And, like, my first initial thought was, okay, like, revealing that there was another Battlestar that did survive and just was doing its own thing is a neat twist. And this is, timing-wise, a really good time to pull the trigger on that. Mm-hmm. Because I think if they'd pulled a storyline like this in season 1, it would have been like, oh, you're undermining their alone premise. But if they'd waited for something like season 3, it would have felt more like a retcon. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, you just pulled that out of your butt. I think they waited the exact right amount of time to pull this move.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember watching this at the time and being like, oh shit. There's like, it was a big surprise that like,
I can imagine.
So yeah, I remember it being a big deal. So, yep. We then cut to Kane, Adama, and Rosalind all having a drink together. And Rosalind's just like, hey, I want to dive in. I just want to ask you some questions because, like, I know you just got here, but, like, I want to know, how'd you find us? And Kane says, well, we were tracking a Cylon fleet. We thought it was random at first, but then we realized it was jumping to positions with natural resources, so we did hit and run attacks on it. And we were getting ahead, and instead of finding the Cylons, we found you. So they've been attacking their fleet. They've been aggressive in attacking their fleet for this time. And then
is interesting. It's the part that I'm going to say is, like, given what we're going to find out later about what kind of commander she is, makes total sense. It is interesting that they have the resources to repeatedly do hit and runs.
Yeah, well, it sounds more like a guerrilla attack, sort of like, not like full on, like hit and run.
Yeah. I've got that, but it's still going to eat up your resources every time you do that.
That is true. There is an answer to that question that we haven't gotten to yet. It is implied.
Look at me catching on to stuff.
Mm-hmm. It is implied in this episode, but we haven't gotten the answer to it yet. So,
I did catch that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I am glad that the show intends to actually address that.
Mm-hmm. It does indeed. Then we get Rosalind asking, how did you avoid the attack? And which Kane is clearly haunted by this. She says, I'll have another. We do get a cutaway to Ty and the other XO of the other ship, but I'll come back to that in a second because that's a whole other thing. So while they're jumping back and forth, we get Kane's explanation of what happened. It said they were about to go into a 3-month overhaul, and everyone was going to take R&R, so the ship was at space dock. And that's when the Cylon attack hit. They shot at the shipyard with a nuke, which destroyed 5 ships right there. And because of that, it blinded Cylon Dratus, so they didn't know that the Pegasus was still attacked, and Kane, after realizing she had lost over 700 men and were defenseless, ordered a blind jump, which was gutsy and dangerous, but she didn't see any other choice. So, and the other thing that she says too, because Adama asked, like, how did you avoid their breaking into your network like all the other ships had? And she said, well, our networks were offline in preparation for the overhaul. So lucky ship.
I mean, that's literally her words, lucky ship, which I am curious if that's something that's going to be poked at later. I kind of hope not, because honestly, you're allowed to just get lucky now and then, especially if it's like the only other damn ship. It's okay to have it be luck.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing that happens during this scene, before I'll jump over to the other stuff with Ty, Kane stands up and says, you can send over your logs when you get the chance. And she kind of orders this, like it's done with, like, Adama stands up and gives her respect as the superior officer, and Rosalind sort of is like, oh yeah.
Well, he very specifically says, yes, sir.
Yes. And Rosalind sort of is surprised by this. She says, you forgot that Admiral Kane is your superior officer. And Kane's like, well, look, there's a chain of command, but it's not heartless. This is your ship. I have no desire to interfere with Galactica's internal affairs. And Adama seems appreciative of this, but then Kane notes to Rosalind, it's like, you look like I just shot your dog. To which Rosalind says, like, we've been through a lot, and Rosalind leaves, and then Kane looks at Adama and says, Secretary of Education, and clearly questioning Rosalind's credentials, and Adama says she's come a long way. So,
yeah, so I found this interesting, but then, like, what I hoped very clearly isn't happening almost immediately. So, like, the idea of bringing in somebody else with not only a vested interest in a say and power, because, like, we mainly deal with Rosalind and Adama, but, like, there's also the Quorum of 12, there's Zarek, like, there's other things going on, but really nobody else has the mechanism to actually push for what they want. Adama has the fleet, and Rosalind has her believers, for lack of a better way to put it. So bringing in a third person with some degree of claim on power, who also has the means to be forceful about it, I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Except that we might technically see her again. We're basically done with Rosalind for the rest of this story, and it is just going to be about Adama and Kane, which, like, for the purposes of the story it's telling, fine. Just as a dynamic, I found that, I don't want to say uninteresting. I guess I feel like I would have liked an episode of seeing them try to make it work before we get to the point that we're going to get about halfway through this.
Interesting. Okay. I think you're making us smile. I think you're making assumptions about where it's gonna go after this, but all right. Anyways, we then
you like to throw the words assumptions a lot just to make me doubt myself. This is how you try to gaslight me through this entire fucking show.
You're assuming there's gonna be no chance after this point that they might not try to make it work. You know what I mean? There's future storylines.
All right, let me put it this way. When you escalate the conflict to the breaking point right off the bat and then try and dial it back and do the more toned down thing, I'm not going to say it's impossible. That is a lot harder to make work and not leave me feeling like this should have been the preamble, not the backlog.
Yeah, well, she'll see. We'll see. I will say probably one of the reasons for that will be this was, just to give you context, this was the mid-season finale. So this is like the end of this was like cliffhanger that went off for like 3
given
4
that
months.
it pulls up a to be continued after the credits. Yeah, I kind of figured it was.
Anyways, the other scene that is happening during all of this, because we kind of cut back and forth to it, is Ty is having drinks with I didn't catch his name, but the other XO of the Pegasus. So his equivalent.
I can get you his name because I've got the actor pulled up. Fisk is the character's name. The actor is Graham Beckel, he's very much like one of those, oh, that guy.
Yeah, very much.
Because like I know him from stuff like Fallen and LA Confidential, and he just kind of shows up, and he tends to play
cop or authority figures.
Well, but like, more specifically, he tends to play slightly sloppy, or like run down authority figures. So like LA Confidential, he's a cop being forced into retirement, and like he's that kind of thing. So like he has that sense of authority, but also like
you're not very good at it. Yeah.
A little slobby.
Yeah,
is kind of his energy.
It's an interesting energy to have. It's like, yeah, you'd probably beat people up, but also not be good at it.
Yeah, well, it's a bit more like, you have authority. I'm not sure you should, but you do.
Yeah, yes. But anyways, Ty and the other XO, Fisk, are having a drink at the still. The Fisk insults the Galactica. Is like, I'm surprised the Silence didn't kick your ass in this bucket. To which Ty seems a little offended, but says, I'm sorry, no one gets to insult your ship except you. And then Ty just plays it off as a joke. It's like, you'll have to skip this round. He's like, aha. But then as they're drinking, Ty asks Fisk what kind of commander Kane is. And Fisk tells this story of, we were going after the Cylon comm relay, but it turned out to be a staging area. And so Kane's original XO, or Kane originally ordered an attack to the XO, but the XO refused the order, and so she took his gun and shot him in the head in front of the whole crew. And then turned to him and asked him to order the attack. And Ty says, "What did you do?" It's like, "I ordered the Frak an attack. What did you think I was gonna do?" But then Fisk sort of plays it off as a joke. It's like, "I'm just kidding. Didn't really that's not what happened. No."
Which we'll find out later. Ty very much believes this happened. The episode does not circle back on this. I think we are left to presume that Ty is correct, that some version of this did happen. But this specific thing doesn't get circled back on and confirmed either way.
What I will tell yeah, I think it's fine because it was like released before it all came out. Just to let you know, one of the movies that we watch is called Raptor, which is it's all set on the Pegasus, and it's the Pegasus' story. What happens on the Pegasus before all this. So we will literally get to see what happens. So I won't tell you whether or not the story is true or not, but we will literally get to see at one point. One of the side movies that they do that you have to watch it between seasons 3 and 4 because it also hints at some other stuff beyond that point. But it is the backstory for the Pegasus.
Okay.
So we will literally get to see at some point. Not for a while, but at some point.
We'll see how much of this thing I remember by that.
Yeah. It is one of those interesting things. Cause yeah, it does. It's one of those, like, it would be interesting to watch it right now after all this stuff settles down and it gets to a good point. But there is some stuff in the movie that's like hinting at season 4 stuff. So you have to watch it between season 3 and 4. So, yeah. So there was a little bit more part of the Kane Adama scene. Adama tells Kane, "We have a Cylon prisoner." And Kane says, "We have one as well." And Adama says, "Ours has been very cooperative. We're lucky to have Baltar on board." And Kane says, "We haven't been able to get anything out of our Cylon." And then she also tells Adama, "It takes no pleasure for me to take command." And Adama's like, "Don't give it a moment's thought, Admiral."
And like my immediate wonder was like, ooh, is this going to be a reveal of another Cylon? Which my gut instinct was that it would be, because I didn't see the impact landing with it just being one that we've already seen. They make an interesting choice.
Mm-hmm.
I will have thoughts.
We'll get there. Well, we then cut down to the crew deck, where Starbuck is meeting some of basically like Apollo and Starbuck are there talking to some of the other pilots. And Starbuck's pointing out, it's like, "Oh, you keep a scorecard on the side of your ship?"
Yeah, because they've got like, it's like little stencils for
how many
every
silence,
raider they've taken down. Yeah.
Yeah. And Starbuck and Apollo are kind of making fun of this. Like, "Oh, do you have caption t-shirts too?" That sort of thing. But then the CAG of the Pegasus comes up to Apollo, whose name I didn't get, so I'll just call him Pegasus, asshole.
You're going to have to come up with something more specific. Otherwise, there's a lot of people who could get that name.
The Pegasus CAG asshole. And he's
there
like, he comes over to Apollo. He's like, "Give me the rundown of this squad of yours, Captain." And he basically tells Apollo, it's like, "You should keep track of your kills. It encourages competition. It's good for morale, all this stuff." And, Apollo's like, "Well, I don't run it that way." And he's like, "Well," and asshole CAG says, "Well, it's Kane's philosophy, which means it's now your philosophy, Captain." And then Lee pulls a Nepo baby move. It's like, "Well, the name of this ship's commander is Adama. It's the same as my name. It should be easy to remember. It's the same as my name." And the other CAG, to be fair, Lee deserved this one. It's like, "All right, daddy's boy." He's like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, the dude literally went, "Do you know who my father is?"
Yeah, exactly. Is like, Lee, you could have won that argument, but you just pulled the Nepo baby argument. It's just like, man, the worst possible way to try and win that fight, my friend. You should have pulled it on your own authority. Like, if he had done it on his own authority, but like, "This is my ship and I'm the CAG and I will make the rules." Like, that would have been a better argument, sort of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, but then they couldn't take him down a peg, which...
Yeah.
I mean, I am still on the fuck this guy train when it comes to Apollo,
yeah.
So...
It's a let them fight situation. It's like, yeah. Do the worst.
Oh, yeah. Like, understand, I'm not rooting for this new guy, but that does not make me a fan of Apollo.
Yeah. Anyways, we then get Baltar showing Kane Tumor, And they're very much talking about Toomer as if she's not in the room. And Baltar's talking about Toomer as an it. He's like, this model has been useful. She's given us key insights, all without coercion. We pretend it's human to make it more cooperative. And Kane just sort of goes like, I can never get over how human they look. And Toomer at several points, he's like, hey, I guess we've encountered another warship,
There was a specific aspect to Baltar's wording that I rather liked. We treat her like the human she pretends to be.
Mm-hmm.
So he is still denying her humanity by labeling it as something that she is pretending, even as acknowledging that it is a factor in how they treat her.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. I did find it interesting. I mean, not to say this is a 1-for-1, but I did get a little bit of trans vibes of like, oh, we'll treat you as a real woman, just for just to make you comfortable. We don't actually believe you're a real woman, sort of like thing. Like, it gave me that kind of vibe to a degree.
So you'll be a productive member of this team in our corporate structure.
Yeah.
We'll treat you as if you're that. Sure.
Yeah, sure. If it makes you more productive for us, but we'll take that away from you, whatever suits us at any point, like Baltar's kind of doing here, because it suits him when he needs to speak to his higher ups like that. So, yep. Yeah, it just showcases, like, Baltar's sort of, like, it showcases how well Baltar knows how to maneuver in these situations. Like, he's very adept at knowing how to speak to, people.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I will say, I'll give him, this episode does showcase to me, like, how he was able to, like, do so well in the world that he came from before this point. So.
Oh, yeah. I will grant you that.
Yeah. Kane is very clearly, like, very much more dehumanizing of Toomer as well. So it's like, oh yeah, I can never get over how human they look. Anyways, Baltar and Kane talk as they leave the room, being like, I was head of Cylon detection. Head 6 is there and saying, I wonder who their Cylon prisoner will be. Baltar sort of says, I'll be happy to examine the prisoner, and Kane says, maybe you'll have better luck. And Head 6 says, oh, I guess you have a thing for strong, powerful women. He's like, I do. Which Kane's like, what? So I thought that was funny.
Kane kind of gives him a similar, like, okay, look as Lucy Lawless gave him.
Yeah, it's like, weird dude. All right, yeah.
What a strange little man.
That's the right read for him. Anyways, we then cut to Adama talking to Ty, and Ty, as you alluded to earlier, is saying like, yeah, Adama's like, sounds you were both drunk, and Ty's like, he wasn't lying, I can tell you that. And Adama argues like, well, we need to, maybe there was context, things like that. And Adama's like, she's putting us in context, she could put down the entire ship and everything like that and whatever. But then Ty
you're glossing over this conversation. I actually want to focus on it for a minute.
Oh, I'm not glossing. There's one point of it that I was get to, but yeah.
Well, you're glossing over the stuff that I want to talk about. What I liked about this is it could have very much come across like Adama making excuses to not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
But what he brings up very pointedly to Ty is that, like, we destroyed a civilian ship with 1,000 passengers on it. And, like, Ty's quick to go, like, we don't know if there were people on that, and there were circumstances not the same. But Adama's making a point. It says, like, yeah, there was context that hopefully she will look at all of before judging us for that action. Basically saying, like, okay, you're telling me you believe this to be true. I'm not saying I doubt you, but I'm saying you have one aspect. You do not have the context for what happened, so let's slow down. And I like the way in which he approaches making that point, because otherwise it could have really felt like he was just reverting to a non-thinking military subordinate position. Like, well, that's the Admiral, just, we're not going to question. And, like, I'm not going to say there's none of that in play later on. Like, he's very much trying to be the good soldier in this and respect the rank. But there is actual thought and logic behind the points he makes here, which I appreciate.
Yes, which I did ultimately like, too, because it is showing, like, yes, he is trying to be the good soldier, but he's not an idiot. He's trying to do his job and do what he's supposed to. But he's not a dumb guy. And Ty sort of says, I wish we could ask Admiral Kane for her log so we could put her in context. And Adama says, wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, he doesn't even say, I wish we could. He says, he basically says you should ask her for those. And Adama's reply is, as you said, like, wouldn't that be nice? Like, just acknowledging flat out, like, yeah, I don't
That's
have
not
the
gonna-
authority,
yeah.
and we're not going there. But like, Ty isn't being wistful about it, like, oh, we should, or I wish we could. Like, no, he says, like, you should do that. And Adama's just like, no,
Yes.
dude,
Yeah,
no.
not happening. Well, then we have a little montage here where we see the Pegasus bringing over a bunch of resources to the Galactica. Like, there's a message, like Callie and the Chief get like some parts. You know, it says from the fellow knuckle draggers on the Galactica, courtesy of the Pegasus crew. And then we see like navigational updates for Gata that were given to him, and also the digital library that the Pegasus has because they had to erase their memory drives. So Gata is, and they say you can thank Kane for this. So it's a little bit like,
and I also appreciate this because like it's already clear at this point, like this is going to go south.
yes, of course.
So I actually like that they sprinkle in a couple of positive things where like, oh, you know, the ground crew gets all these, you know, equipment that they didn't have or they only had outdated things of, and Gata gets, you know, the restored archive data and all this stuff. Like, here's some good stuff sprinkled out as opposed to just overly hammering the, oh, this is all bad thing, because it just would have been so one note.
Yes.
And I think that's a mistake many other shows doing a similar plot do. Like when somebody's coming in and taking the authority from the characters we love, and they're just bad across the board. Everything they do is wrong, and there's nothing good here. Like, no, here's some nice stuff that happens because of it. Other stuff's gonna be fucked, but
yeah, and I also like that we get a little hint of it with a guy that we'll meet later on, that the Chief will meet later on. But also, like, not everyone on board the Pegasus is an absolute dick. Like, most of the characters that we deal with, like Kane, the other XO, and also like the CAG of the Pegasus are all assholes. And we get like a hint here of like, hey, from fellow knuckle draggers, the other of the Galactic from the Pegasus crew, it's like a little bit of like, there's a sense of like, you know, other people are nice to him or whatever.
Well, the main implication we get is that the military chain of command are dicks, because the slight spoiler for where we're going, it's kind of treated as a top-down problem where Kane's command style has brought out the worst
in everyone else
the whole way down. But like with folks like you mentioned, like coming from the other knuckle draggers and the other ground crews, like those are civilian positions.
Exactly. So yeah, I really appreciate that to a degree. We then cut to, speaking of the, you know, Galactica getting a bunch of stuff, Roslin and Adama talking, and Roslin's bringing up this point of like, you know, Galactica is the only vessel currently having its needs met. When will we get supplies out to the rest of the fleet? And Adama sort of saying like, hey, Kane says supplies are on their way. I'll talk to her about it. And Roslin's like, Kane won't even answer my phone calls. So maybe you can get her to talk. So you can see that Kane doesn't have a respect for Roslin and her position at all. And then Roslin sort of asks, like, how are you doing to Adama? And he says, hey, she outranks me. It's as easy as that. And Roslin sort of is like, you know, if someone, you know, if the president of the colony stepped out, I would be grateful to have someone take over. And yet, and then Adama's like, well, I haven't reached that point yet. You know, I've been taking orders my whole life. So, you know, it's fine. And she says, yeah, I appreciate all the help you can give us. So, and Adama's like, and you shall receive it. So again, showing like their bond there, which I kind of liked. So yeah, Adama's still trying to be like, you know, it's a good soldier. I'll try and help as I can, but you know, this is where my position's at. So.
Well, he's in a position where, like, on paper, what is supposed to happen is incredibly clear cut. And things have not yet turned to a degree where that is a problem yet.
Yep.
Like, it may not be ideal, but it's not yet an active issue.
So yeah, we then cut to the Chief and Callie sort of like back on the crew deck. And then they meet Laird, who is the Pegasus deck chief, who's come to look at everything going on the Galactica ship. And he's sort of making note of the Blackbird, the ship that the Chief made. And he's sort of talking about, like, hey, I was actually the one who designed these engines.
Yeah. Can I get my nitpick on? dude is too young for what this dialogue implies.
Fair. Yeah. So
yeah. So for audiences who didn't watch this episode, he notes the engines that they use, which we already knew were older engines because that was like part of the plot point. It's built out of scrap. But he's like, oh, that these were retired 10 years ago. And then he says, like, I'm the one who designed them. And I actually did double check. The actor was not even 40 yet, meaning the systems were retired before he was 30, which means he had to design them and so fucking young that they had enough time to go get tested, get produced, get it used, and become obsolete. Bullshit. This guy's at least minimum a decade too fucking young for the backstory that they are giving him.
Yeah, I know. It does not work.
And that's not a knock on the actor. He's actually he has this kind of what I can only think to call a soft likability. There isn't like that charisma magnetic thing to him, but it's just like seems like a nice guy, you know, in that sort of seems okay kind of way. So like he's bringing a real good presence to it. Don't get me wrong. I'm actually just gonna blame the writing. When they cast a guy this young, they should have gone back to the script and fixed those numbers.
Yes, they really should have. Like it should have been like, oh, this was retired a year ago or whatever, like something like that. Yeah, a little bit better. Yeah. Anyways, but yes, this sort of raises a question from Chief and Callie, and they realize, like, yes, I was a civilian. I was picked up by my ship was picked up by the Pegasus, and I was drafted to be Jet Chief on the Pegasus. And then he sort of asks, like, I'd love to see how you did this. And Chief is, like, kind of proud. It's like, how people come to see my ship. So, yeah, he's a little bit proud of that. So, yeah, implication that this guy was taken off of his civilian ship and drafted by the Pegasus. So, question is, where's that ship?
Well, there's a question of where's that ship. There's also just the term drafted means, a lack of choice involved. Now, if we were to pull back on greater context for that, when you are lacking for means and when you are lacking for crew, you need everybody who can step up to step up. But, just the use of that term alone just kind of that word alone implies an unwillingness. Like, I wouldn't be here if they didn't make me.
So, little hint of stuff there. Then we cut over to Baltar getting to meet the other Cylon. And we learn from the guard that this Cylon killed 7 of his crew. And so, why am I blanking on the word here? Killed 7 of his crew, and Baltar's sort of like, okay. And then Head 6 is sort of playing with Baltar. Is like, ooh, do you need the big bad soldier to protect you from the Cylon prisoner? But then when they see who the Cylon is, Head 6 is very clearly shocked, and we learn that it is another 6 who has been very, very badly beaten, like bruised all over, and clearly been beaten and tortured.
So under normal circumstances, when you have a character, because and it's also clearly a dubbed in line too, where Head 6 said, it's me. Under normal circumstances, I'd go to freaking trust your audience. In this case, I'm so glad they did, because she is and honestly, the biggest signifier would have been the hair, but the hair on the version of 6 that is in this cell is dirty and matted and not the pristine kind of platinum blonde. So between that and just how roughed up she looks and the angles that she is shot at, I would not have been very certain that that's who that was if they hadn't said. So I'm actually appreciative in this case.
Yeah, in fact, that's probably why they dubbed it in, because they probably showed it to people like, who's that? And so they're like, oh, I think we need to dub in a line.
There was a moment or two where I'm like, is that Starbuck with longer hair?
Yeah.
I could have bought that, honestly.
All women look alike to you?
I mean, in low light and in private, hey, it's just bodies.
It's true. But yes, they clearly been beating her. Even when Baltar goes into the cell, and it's a fucked up detail, but I liked it. But like, there's clearly a smell because he's like putting his his handkerchief up to cover from the smell. Yep. So yeah, it's really fucked up. And Baltar kind of goes right into like scientist mode. Like he's like checking out her eyes. He starts like being like, she's been abused, she's been tortured, she's awake. There's no obvious signs of head trauma, but her eye movements suggest conscious thought. And Head 6 gets kind of angry at this, being like, stop being a scientist for a moment and look at the abused woman lying in front of you. And then Baltar sort of says to her, it's like, I know this must be difficult. I have to understand her if I can help her, but I will tell you, I will do everything I can. After all, she is remarkably similar to someone I care a great deal for, but it's probably best to be left us alone for a time.
Which results in the interesting shot of like, suddenly Head 6 is not there. And he even like kind of takes a moment where it's like, he's going like, oh shit, I'm actually alone. Okay. So, oh boy. I have a lot of thoughts on all of this, and I'm trying to think of how much is it just going to turn up at the back end, and whether or not I want to get into any of it now.
There's well, I'll save it.
All right, here is an overarching thing that I find frustrating, and I feel like I can mention this now. It seems very clear to me, and like you're gonna do the whole, you're assuming, like fucking canon, because even if I'm wrong, then they are if I'm wrong about where they're headed, then they are putting way too much emphasis on this if they're going to abandon it. And if I'm right, then my view stands as stated. It seems very clear at this point that they are positioning the Cylons in they are just like us, and functionally, narratively, while they are not necessarily the good guys, at least the show doesn't seem prepared to go there yet, it is basically going their people too, which is fine. However, I cannot help but feel disappointment that the only way you could think to humanize this group is to literally have them be human. And like, when we were treating the human Cylons as infiltrators, that was fascinating to me. But now it's serving a very different purpose. Now it's serving are some of the humans the real monsters? Frickin' zombie apocalypse nonsense question. And the image of a beaten, and we will find out very soon, sexually abused woman as your shorthand for that, I don't love. Like, just purely setting the loadedness of that image aside, just purely as a narrative, it always frustrates me when the only way that sci-fi or fantasy writers can think to humanize someone is to literally make them human. Like, there's so much more you could explore in terms of people with completely different thought processes, completely different appearances, coming to understand each other and having to work with those differences rather than just flattening everybody. So it's like, see, they're just like us. I'm like, okay, well, they're way less interesting if they're just like us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's two examples that I'll give just because they're recent. I mean, Star Trek is an obvious one. Like the original series had like the devil in the dark sort of thing of like, oh, look, this monster that's killing people actually is a human, or not, it's a being with thoughts and feelings and is like a mother and da-da-da-da-da. So like Star Trek has done that a decent amount of times, even though it does humanize some aliens a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, but I mean, that probably has more to do with the fact that Star Trek for a long time was made on a budget of 2 ham sandwiches and a bit of string, and
yes,
they needed to look human because they couldn't do decent suits.
Yes, but it did do it from time to time of like they at least have a different culture, A, and B, they did do sometimes like, hey, this thing is really alien. I also just read, and I know you read it because you did a review of it, Children of Time, which is very similar to that.
That one is fascinating, like as a case study for getting to have empathy for something that does not behave and does not even think the same way that people do. Oh yeah, that book.
I just read it. I would highly recommend everybody read it. I'm starting the second book, Children of Ruin, which is the second book in that series. It's also very good. So
like that book is like that is a gold standard for portraying a completely different way of being, but making it digestible.
Also, the Expanse writers do that decently as well with the Expanse books, but also their more recent book that they're doing. I forget the title of it, but their recent book is also.
There's a number of authors who do it. I would say Ursula K. Le Guin can also do that, although she usually does it much more through just immersing the reader in it, as opposed to, something like Battlestar Galactica would have to do, which is to have it interact with actual humans as we would recognize them. But like there's stuff out there, and it's probably not coincidental that some of the examples we're thinking up with are literature, which can delve a lot more into the ways that thought processes work in a way that mediums like this can't. So there is some limitation to having it be a TV show at all, but I would still say that it's still a disappointing choice to me.
Yes. And I would also even go further, because you brought it up, you touched on it a little bit, is the fact that they have to do it through women. And like not because it's not even just the Six who's like the abused battered woman. We'll also get to it later on with Tumor and what happens to her this episode. But even beyond what happens to her this episode, they're also clearly using Tumor, just generally speaking, as one of the characters to humanize the Cylons as well. And it's like she's a pregnant woman, so it's like we have an abused, beaten woman and also a pregnant woman. So it's like they're human too, because we care about women. Don't you care about like women, instead of it being like we can humanize them just based on them like being people, as opposed to like we have to use the like.
But it's not just women; it's women in need, women in distress.
Yes.
And honestly, Tumor in and of itself, that choice with her didn't bother me, because she was, at least as we have seen so far in the show, who knows how accurate this is or if it changes, she has been shown as an outlier even among the Cylons. So while I did assume it was going to continue to lean that way, she did not automatically lean into an idea of this is meant to humanize the entire notion of Cylons. But now we've got two, and they're two doing very similar things.
Yeah.
And like, oh, okay, so this is definitely what we're doing now. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. I will say, I know you said don't, like, I won't play you're assuming. They're, in fact, very soon, I believe, too, we'll start to learn a little bit more about how the Cylons are different. And also, at some point, we will learn why they aren't so different. So we'll get there. There is discussions around that, but yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong for how you're talking about it, because it's clearly the show doing that, and whether or not it changes it up later, adds more context to it later, it's still doing the thing in the moment. So yes. Also, I will get there when we get there, but it's not in this episode, but stuff with this character and this like Six character, this prisoner character. It's interesting.
Oh boy, that is a loaded word.
Yeah, we'll get there. I think next episode, either in the next two episodes, we'll see. And definitely will be explored more in the movie Razor, so we'll get there. Anyways, we then cut to other thing too, because we kind of glossed over it, but will say I did actually like Baltar's stuff with Head 6 here. With Baltar being like, look, I have to kind of be the dispassionate scientist here. It's not that I don't care. It's that like I kind of have to be dispassionate to be able to figure out how to help her here, which I actually kind of I liked that as a point. It actually humanized Baltar in a way that I liked in an interesting way. So that we kind of glossed over that.
He has some of his best material in this episode.
Yeah, no, I finally like it makes him just a little bit more than just the asshole. Like, oh, there's actually a person with empathy underneath all that shit. So, but yes, we cut to, he's talking to Kane, and he is, again, it kind of speaks to Baltar's ability to maneuver within these systems, because he's going back to defaulting as like he's just talking about this Six as an it, being like, I gotta allow her to bathe and eat, I need proper clothes and comforts, and Kane's like, the comfort of that thing is no concern of me. my own. And she says, it killed, I forget how many number, but a decent number of her crew. And Balthar's like, no, well, technically she let Centurions aboard your ship, not actually killed them herself. And this Kane is like, no, that you trying to defend them? And Balthar's like, nope, being very clear. I think the Bruta and Cylons are awful. They all should be exterminated, but my job isn't extermination, it's investigation. It's currently physically damaged, traumatized. There's no physical damage. It's clearly traumatized. So its current condition is probably psychological, which means it has a human psyche. So you've been using the stick. Let me use the carrot. So
there's a specific sentence you left out. Mm-hmm. After he brings up like it's traumatized, therefore it has a human psyche. Therefore it can be subject to the same manipulations as we can. Mm-hmm. So for him to point that out, again, I think this speaks to what you said about how he knows how to talk to her, because she doesn't care that this thing's traumatized. Mm-hmm. She doesn't give a shit. But he's using that to make the point, like, that means that I can work her over just through, manipulation, interview tactics, because you beating the hell out of her didn't work.
Yep. Yes. So, yeah, that's why I really like this, because we already get a sense, because it could just be Baltar dehumanizing her because he actually believes all this, but because of his conversation with Head 6, we clearly get a sense of, like, no, he does actually care, so this is just him putting up the veneer to know how to speak to Kane, which I really liked. So, again, it just goes to that point of, like, he knows how to speak to these people, yeah.
Another thing that's interesting is this is by far the most functional we have seen him in terms of navigating these situations. And it's when Head 6 is gone. Mm-hmm. So it is interesting, and interesting in a consistency sense, because if it were not for that detail, part of me would question, like, he's not this competent though. He's frequently tripping over his own fucking feet and making an idiot of himself in front of people. But part of that is because there is literally a woman in his head giving him shit every time he tries to hold a conversation with somebody. And it's interesting to see how much better he can navigate these situations when she's not fucking with him.
Yeah, well, I also, like, speaking of if we're going to bring it back to, like, the Musk comparison of it all, right? Part of what makes Musk kind of work, and a lot of those kind of people kind of work, is because they are able to, like, work people and, like, give this, like, very charismatic front that, like, is papering over the thinness of their actual personality and how much of pieces of shit they actually are. But, like, they are able to have some level of charisma that gets people in to a degree, or at least bullshit people in to a degree, to their cult of personality, which we kind of got a sense of way back in the miniseries, where he was, like, on television in his nice suit, kind of knowing what to do. And then everything after that point that we've seen him in on this show, he's had Head 6 there kind of fucking with him. And then he's also been kind of nervous and scared because he doesn't want to be found out as a traitor. So he's kind of, like, not working from his usual position of, like, I'm all suave and cool. And then also when he's entered into, like, overt politics as the vice president and trying to exert power in a way that he's never really used before. So, like, all of these things are positions where he's not necessarily comfortable in, or he's in a weird position, or Head 6 is fucking with him. Whereas here, like, him being able to speak to the military, and some people, like, speaking to admirals, considering he was a defense contractor, is probably something he's been used to do. So, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it's consistent in an interesting way. We have Adama is now meeting with Kane in her office, and we see she has a bunch of guns, like, very nice classic guns in there. And
like flintlock and muskets and whatnot, which it's a cute detail for her as a character. As a world building thing, it pisses me off.
Yes, it's the same thing with the food stuff, the horse reference from the other episode.
Yeah, like the track of their technology should not be fucking identical. Like, it's one thing if it was swords. Look, every civilization, once they have figured out how to work with metal, has made a pointy blade. Fine. whatever. I wouldn't even care if it looked a little like ones I recognized, as long as it doesn't pull that fucking thing from Babylon 5 using a super culturally specific one, like they did that one time. But like, no, like these are like British Navy muskets, or it's the fuck, man.
Yeah. Adama is talking to her. And Kane points out, like, there's no place to sit in my office. It's easier on my back, and also made meetings faster with my subordinates. So out went the chairs. Which again, I like that as a detail for her. Kind of fits her. And then she also talks about, like, Adama's like, I've never been on a Mercury class ship. It's twice the size, nearly half the crew. And Kane actually compliments the Galactica, calling it a classic. I like the classics. And he points out, I can see because of your guns. And then she again keeps complimenting him. Says, like, you've been through quite an ordeal. You did yourself proud. It's clear that she's trying to, like, be on his good side to try and talk to him. So again, it showcases, like, she knows how to work these conversations too with a subordinate as well, like someone she needs to work with.
To a point.
Yeah, to a point. Like, yeah, but again though, and it could have just been very easy to have her be the dick, right? And be like, you're gonna listen to me. I'm gonna tell you what to do. It's like, no, she's complimenting him, trying to be friendly to get him on her side. So like there is a level of it. Like she'll pull the rank card when she needs to and wants to, but like it's not completely just that. Like there is some level of, she's able to work these conversations. Anyways, she starts bringing up the fact that, like, we found out by matching your movements to the fleet that we've been tracking that they've been following you. And so what we have is there's this fleet that we've been tracking has 2 base stars, a bunch of other ships, and then one large ship that they seem to be protecting, which Adam points out is that's what I call a tempting target. And then Kane is seemingly pleased with this because she's like, oh, it seems like I thought I was going to do a whole song and dance to have to convince you to attack them, but the Dom seems to be on board with hitting them where it hurts. So, which
is interesting for me that is her interpretation, because the way he says tempting target, to me at least, didn't read as, ooh, I want to go after it. It read as just an acknowledgement of fact. Like, he can see why this would look appealing, but she immediately takes that as like, oh, great, you want to do this too.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm over here going, he didn't say that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is where her mind's at, but yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But yes, there's an interesting, mysterious ship. Mm-hmm.
That I'm down for. Like, again, give me weirdness. Give me stuff that isn't just, they're just fucking people. Mm-hmm. Like, I know I'm spoiled because the 2 shows we did prior to this were Farscape and Babylon 5, and Farscape was just fucking weird from start to finish, and Babylon 5 did like sort of an eldritch take on alien races really well most of the time, and here it's so
basic. Yeah.
It's so grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that's a plus for some people, but it's like, give me my weird shit.
We'll get there. There will be some weird shit. In fact, don't look at the title of next week's episodes because it gives away the game. But we will get to some weird shit. I don't know if we'll see it necessarily in next week, but we will get to some weird shit.
I'm not sure there's any way for me around seeing the title, because I'm gonna have to literally like pull up the file.
Yeah, the next 2 episodes are a part 1 and part 2, and the title gives away the game. I think. I don't know.
That's actually always really annoying to me.
Mm-hmm.
when a 2-part title like gives away part of its overall thing with a title for part 1. Like, okay, my classic go-to for that is the Cyberman 2-parter from Doctor Who's second series with David Tennant. The titles of the 2-parters are Rise of the Cybermen and The Age of Steel. And the first
totally
one is called... Yeah. They should swap those.
Because the whole
should be the
surprise
other way
is the
around.
Cybermen. Yeah. Yeah, the whole episode is like, oh, look, it's the Cybermen. Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, like, here's this reveal. Like, it's shot in episode, like, these moments you get these reveals in the silhouette, and so for classic fans it would be like, ooh, but it's like, no, we know it's in the fucking title.
Yeah, which Doctor Who is even worse because it shows the title. Like some shows don't tell you the title in the episode, but this
That
one
is
literally
true.
does.
Some
It's
shows don't actually put the title up on screen. Doctor Who does. The fuck, man. It's an okay two-parter. It's a little bit of a messy season, but god damn it, just switch the fucking titles.
Yes. Also, I was having this. So this is an aside. I was having a conversation with other people earlier because my friend, she's gonna be on a panel where it's a Star Trek Doctor Who panel, and she knows nothing about Doctor Who, because she's there. Everyone else on the panel is a Doctor Who person, and she's the Star Trek person. And so she was asking me, being like, "What's some Doctor Who stuff?" And like she was asking, was like, "Oh yeah, so like the Daleks are like the Borg," and I'm like, "No." The Cybermen are more like the Borg. The Daleks are much more racist and overtly fascist than the Borg are. So I'm like, there's not really a super, like, I can point to other fascists in Star Trek, like the Mirror Universe or the Dominion or whatever. Like those are fascist societies. But like the Daleks are like the distilled version of fascism. Like they just hate fucking everybody, want to murder everybody. So it's like it's hard to find a direct comparison to anything in Star Trek for them.
The Daleks are the Nazis writ large. Like what they are is they are the Nazi philosophy distilled.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah,
Like,
it's
any sense of these are human beings who think this. Any sense of that is gone. It is just that philosophy in a tin can.
Yeah, which is like there's not really an equivalent to that in Star Trek. Like the closest you could get to is the Mirror Universe, but the Mirror Universe is more cartoonish than the Daleks are. So yeah.
Well, it depends what Dalek story you're talking about.
Yeah, fair enough. There were the brightly colored fascists. I always found that fucking.
You know what? Those get too much hate.
I
actually don't have a problem with those.
Well, here's my thing with it, and then we'll move back to Galactica. My only point with that is like, I don't mind it as an aesthetic. I actually don't think they looked that bad. I actually thought they looked kind of cute. I lived in the year that those debuted. I was actually living in the UK, so they were actually all over the place. But that was actually kind of my problem because like they look cute, but like they are fascist. Like they are little like so it's like kind of commodifying, like selling the Daleks as these cute little toys is like colorful toys kind of weirded me out a little bit. That's the problem that's a problem with the commodification of our culture.
I was gonna say that ship sailed. There was literally Dalek mania in the fucking 60s, Jesse.
I'm well aware. It always just weird. Like I have a literal rule. With any like toys or things that I buy, I do not buy any fascist characters. The closest I will come to is if they're recovering fascists. So like if I get a character that like I could technically do what's his face from Farscape because I have his toy over there. The guy who worked, I forget his name, the fascist guy who worked with Talon, Crace. Yes, Crace. So like I could do Crace because he's like he got better, he got a little better. But if like they're a straight up fascist character like your Emperor Palpatines or your even your Vaders because he has a return at the end, but like he's mostly just the fascist. Like I don't buy those characters, so it always just weirds me out when you have like the Daleks doing it. But it's a personal rule. It's whatever. But it always weirds me out. So. Whatever, commodification of our society, sell anything, including fascist signifiers, and it's all good. Wear your Stormtrooper cosplay and don't worry about it. Anyways, that's a larger conversation. Back to the scene. Kane seems to be excited about the fact that Adama seemingly is on board to attack this mysterious Cylon ship. And then she brings up the fact, like, okay, this brings me to my other point. I'm going to integrate the crews. I'm going to reassign Lee to the Pegasus. This is the first thing that really Adama sort of gets his hackles raised on. He says, well, I have a team that works very well together. And she goes, well, let's cut through it.
Well, let's note, because he brings up team because she doesn't just say Lee. She's moving Lee and Starbuck.
Well, yeah, she gets to that in a second. But yeah. It's like, let's just cut through it. It's like having your son as Galactica's CAG is a grave mistake. He's been insubordinate and mutinous. Those are your words. Kara Thrace has been punching people. Lieutenant Agathon impregnated Cylon. That's not even to discuss your XO. I give you a complete list of transfers, and he sort of says, like, I thought you said you weren't going to interfere with my command, and he says, I'm saving your command. So, and he says, you're way too close to this. And he says, well, it'll damage unit. She says this is a damage to unit morale and unit cohesion. And Adama says, I don't agree. And she says, as is your right, you have your orders. So, and I will actually say, I don't disagree with Kane necessarily.
I don't either.
Yeah.
It's pulling a similar thing that it does with Zarek, which is that because she is in opposition to the characters we already know and presumably like, we are meant to assume that she is a raging asshole in anything where she is clashing with them. But, and I'm going to underline this several times, I do not co-sign everything about this woman at all. But in this instance, especially from the position of somebody who only has reports to look at, looking at the facts of what has happened, she is not wrong.
No, I don't. Yeah, I agree too. I don't even necessarily think that the episode is against her on this. Not necessarily.
I think you need to rewatch the scene with camera angle and music in mind. I think it's very much framing her as the asshole.
Maybe I'll have to rewatch it. I was taking notes. I don't remember I was listening to the words, not necessarily the.
Like, it's not overly dumb, but like the tone is the tone of the shooting and the music is bad shit is going down right now.
Yes. I don't disagree. But yeah, I agree. I actually agree with her on this point. Because yeah, I would say having your son be the CAG on your ship, probably a bad move. We literally saw earlier in the episode him trying to pull the Nepo baby shit. And
Starbuck is subordinate. Like, yes, you have a good relationship with her. Like, here's the thing. That one he could, like, not under the circumstances, but broadly speaking, that one he could maybe make a case for on the basis of she is a talented pilot, and if you just try and make her step in line, she will not be as valuable an asset as someone who knows how to handle her. Maybe he could make that argument. He really has almost no basis to defend the fact that he has his son directly in a command position directly underneath him. Like, you made the choice that you had to make with the resources you had, but like objectively, dude, that's fucked.
So, all right. Well, then we cut over to Starbuck and Lee getting ordered by Adama to transfer the Pegasus, and they're both angry. And then like both start like arguing with him. And Adama's like, hey, "You're both officers. Act like it. She gave you an order. You will carry it out. Bending the rules, having it our way, letting things slide. We no more that we wear the uniform. You have to accept the rules." So, basically, like comes down as like, this is the chain of command. Starbuck goes without being dismissed, but then he calls her back, being like, "Watch out for yourselves. They're both gunning for both of you, I think." And then Starbuck leaves, but Lee sticks around for a second and says, "I think they're gunning for all of us." So, yeah. We then cut to Chief and what was his name? The too young engineer guy, Laird or something like that. He's talking with the chief, and then Callie comes up and says, "This is bullshit, Chief." And Chief's like, "Oh, so Brass is bringing someone over to take over my some Frakwit to take over my deck." And Laird sort of like, "Oh, yeah, it must be bad." And then Chief realizes, and Laird's like, "Yeah, I'm the Frakwit." And Chief's like, "All right, officer's over here." So, yeah. It's like, yeah, what are you going to do? But then we then have Starbuck and Lee in the sort of CAG meeting over on the Pegasus. And we get, like, they're very nice looking, their, hall there. It looked very sleek.
Yeah. Like I said, I noticed the differences with the interior way more than the exterior.
Yeah, no, definitely did a lot of good work there. But yeah, basically the CAG of the Pegasus presenting the plan to attack the Cylon fleet. They said, we're gonna hide behind this moon where they can't see us, and then we'll use that to attack them. And Starbuck initially whispers to Lee, but then the CAG sort of calls them out and says, she just in her Starbuck way says, "Your plan sucks." He's like, you really wanted to get busted down right on your first day. And she says, look, your idea is dumb. Cylons aren't stupid. They're not going to go near that side of the moon. You should use the stealth ship that we have. And then the CAG says, Starbuck, you're off this mission. And then he belittles Apollo by having he's going to be piloting a Raptor for this mission. So
now, here's something that I kind of would have liked. Granted, I get why he doesn't. I get why this CAG doesn't say what I'm gonna say. I would have liked, because he is you take my orders and like them, and I don't want to hear any of your lip type. So he wouldn't justify himself. That having been said, I kind of would have liked him to say, you talk to me like I've never taken on Cylons. We've been sniping at them successfully for, months now. Like, don't talk to me like I don't know what I'm doing. Because, again, the framing of the episode is sort of painting him as, like, not knowing as much as she and Apollo know. But the thing is, logistically, unless some of the information we've been told is just false, that makes no sense, because they appear to have had about as many direct run-ins with the Cylons, if not more. So, like, this idea that he can't come up with good tactics to deal with them doesn't mesh with the fact that they have to have been successful at doing this up to this point.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. I don't disagree. But anyways, Apollo then, once out of the meeting, he tells Starbuck to go and take the Blackbird. Just do it. So breaking the chain of command there. We then cut over to the Galactica, and Chief is confused why the Blackbird's gone, and he's told by, I think, Callie's like, oh yeah, Starbuck came over and said, oh, Kane wanted to use it. So she's got it. But then they're going to what is basically a bunch of the Pegasus and the new Pegasus crew getting drunk around the still. And they basically start making jokes about Tumor, being like, oh, she's hot, she's sexy, and obviously Hilo and the Chief get kind of pissy about it because, she's the girl that they have feelings for. But then they tell her, and we start to see the footage of this, and just warning for listeners, we're going to talk about sexual assaults here, so you can skip ahead a little bit if you don't want to talk about it. But they basically tell Apollo and a few things. They tell them that with their Cylon prisoner, Kane literally put a sign up that says, please do disturb, which implies that they let people come in.
Do they say specifically that Kane put it up? I think it was identified as like the lieutenant, what's his face, who is about to head over to interrogate.
Oh yeah. You remember when Thorne put it was Thorne. Thorne. So Thorne, yes, please disturb.
And I feel like that's a distinction worth making, because while it is not directly addressed, it is my belief, based off how stuff is presented and the way in which the episode appears to be criticizing Kane's command style, that she was aware and did nothing. But there is still a distinction worth making, at least narratively, if not morally, between active encouragement and fuck it, I don't care. At least in terms of like how black of a brush are they painting her character with at this point. And I do think that distinction kind of matters.
Yes, I don't agree. It's going to be very interesting when you learn specifics.
I'm not sure I'm excited to.
No, I don't think you should be. But yes,
Great.
the implication is that a very clear implication is that like Thorne allowed her to be sexually assaulted by the crew as part of the torture process.
I would say it's not even an implication. Like, they are talking about having taken turns.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, Hilo and Chief get angry about this, but then they learn that Thorne is quite literally right now going to do that to Tumor, do his brand of interrogation to Tumor. We cut into that. I'm not going to go through a beat by beat of it, but he basically goes to try and interrogate her and starts to sexually assault her and pull down her pants.
Yes.
To which she is very traumatized, but Hilo and Chief come in at that moment because they're sort of running away to do that. They sort of fight, throw him against the wall, and the other officers there sort of has them get on their knees with the gun while Tumor is crying, but when they threw him against the wall, Thorn's head hit a nail, and he died, which I go, good, fuck him.
Yes, absolutely. I did find it interesting that it was the chief who pulled him off and threw him into the wall. And more than that, not only did that, punched him several times after having done that, not realizing he'd already killed him. And I find that interesting given the confrontation that Hilo and the chief already had over her, that he is the one who takes the more direct and violent action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I will. The only other thing I will say about the scene, I mean, like, I don't love it. Don't love the whole let's sexually assault her moment, and it uses a humanizing. Like, it's like, let me put it this way: it's not unrealistic. I don't think it is an unrealistic thing. It is a thing that happens in situations like these.
Yeah,
there is a little bit of that, like, guy power fantasy thing of the two guys coming in to save her. Which, like, I guess I'd rather that than, like, it actually having happened to the character, but it is one of those things where, like, shows tend to do that thing. It's kind of why I liked, without going fully into it, the Star Wars Andor episode, where there's a similar situation that happens there, but we specifically do not get the guy riding in to save her in that episode, and I appreciate how that show took that scene. You can question whether or not they should have done the scene or not, but if you're going to do it, that was the way to do it,
So, the note that I wrote down is, I buy it, but Jesus.
Yeah.
So, I think it's worth putting into the context of the time as well, because, and I did check the timing on this. This would have been made and probably written not too long after, word had broke about Abu Ghraib, which I don't know if you remember that.
I do, yeah. I vaguely remember it as a kid. I know of it now that I'm an adult. I vaguely remember it at the time. Guantanamo Bay was more the thing I remember, so.
Quick refresher for folks. This was early on into the absolutely abysmal atrocity that was the War on Terror, and it was a prison that caused a scandal when photographs leaked out of the guards torturing and sexually humiliating the prisoners and laughing about it. And that caused a bit of a scandal, and I have no doubt was probably in the mind in the writer's room as they were deciding to tackle this, because, you know, given how much they want us to like, even the assholes, they want us to like the characters on Galactica. This wasn't really an aspect, you know, if they're criticizing something like the War on Terror or even trying to depict it accurately, this wasn't really an aspect that they could explore with the characters they had. It would have been character destroying for whoever they did it with. So if they were ever going to explore this aspect of it, it makes sense to bring in a whole new bunch of people. And again, I buy it. It still feels gross, not just because the actions being taken are heinous, but again, kind of coming back to what we've circled around, this choice to bring empathy and bring villainization to, you know, different aspects of this through the medium of rape. And I'm not going to call it invalid. I am going to say I would really have preferred you'd found another delivery mechanism for the points you're making. I am honestly ultimately really torn on this, because narratively and functionally it works, but I really hated watching it.
I mean,
arguably I should, but that still leaves me in a place where I feel more grossed out than outraged.
Well, it's a thing. This is a complicated conversation, but it's something that I kind of, there's interesting discussions about it, where when it comes to the depiction of rape and sexual assault, I don't generally mind a show or TV show addressing it, especially when it's pertinent. And given this show being a Bush era show that wants to tackle stuff like that, I think it is actually worth addressing within the show. However, as a filmmaker aspect of me, there is something about the way you depict it in there being a sense of voyeurism. And I kind of even noted it earlier with like, the scene is set up in a way where it's done voyeuristically, where we can kind of like watch it and we're meant to sort of be horrified by watching it. But then we get this power fantasy of two guys coming in to save her. And it's this thing of like, we're not really in her perspective at any point in the episode. And generally my big thing is like, if you're going to depict something like sexual assault, you should try to do it in a way that is humanizing to the person who is being assaulted, and being aware of like where they're like, not necessarily you need to be in their head at the moment of what's going on, but like there should be an understandable like going into their psychology. Whereas here it seems to have this, again, I this might be overly simplistic, but just for the note of this podcast, like this male gaze thing of like, oh, we're going to sit here being like horrified watching it as like this, like sort of very men who wrote this episode can do. But then have this power fantasy of like, we're the guys that can come in and save her. And so like, there's this interesting thing about like voyeurism and like how we get to portray it. I think it is technically generally better, I find, to like never show scenes like this. I mean, you can if there's a reason for it, but I generally as a rule think it's better to like talk about it more as a thing that we don't have to just like leer at visually. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, like this is something that I've brought up in reviews intermittently. Like, I know the general rule is show, don't tell. Sometimes telling is better for a variety of reasons, especially if the point you want to make is about the impact it had on a person. Telling can actually at times be way better, because the way someone chooses to describe or relay something will tell you a lot more about them than just watching them go through a thing more often than not.
And it doesn't even... Oh, yeah, please.
And in the case of something like this, there is a lot that you can convey by just letting people have their own voice about what happened to them, rather than forcing the character to go through it on screen and force the audience to watch.
Well, the example that I'll give that isn't about sexual assault, but this one I actually really like. I've used it a few times in videos and stuff, but I think it's a very good one because it doesn't even need to be telling necessarily, but it can be. It can be like characters say it and that shows you their perspective on it, and that could have worked better for Toomer having like talk about it or something like later on. But another example that I like to use that isn't sexual assault is the comparison of the Avatar: The Last Airbender animated show.
I knew you were going to do this.
But it's a great example of the Avatar: The Last Airbender show, the animated show, versus the live action show, because the live action show starts off by showing us the Airbender genocide, and it's meant to be horrifying, but we're also kind of reveling in the voyeurism of like, oh look, isn't it cool, this genocide that's happening. So there's like this veneration there's like this voyeurism of enjoying looking at it even while we're supposed to be horrified of it, where I think it's much more impactful.
By its nature, it's a cool action set.
Yes, and there's something much more powerful of how the animated show does it, where what we get flashbacks to Aang remembering the really nice times that he had with the Airbenders before the genocide, and then him walking through the ruins of it afterwards. And we get this juxtaposition of what was lost. And in that juxtaposition, it's actually a much more powerful and actually gets across the message that the show is trying to show much more, much better than literally showing it is. So I think that there's a power in that you could have done something similar here. You'd have to rewrite it so it's not the power fantasy of these guys coming in to save her, but like, even just as an example, and not saying I wanted it to go this way, but just an example, instead of showing her getting assaulted, it's more powerful to show her afterwards, and like before and after, like her being happy, and then afterwards she's like haunted or whatever. Not that I necessarily wanted that to be what happened logistically in the plot, but I think that would have been much more powerful than like showing it happen, if that was there. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So
here's part of the thing. I think I'm personally going to argue from the position that This one I find unnecessary because, in a way, this episode is going to do what you're talking about with the 6.
Yes.
So, and that I think is also unsettling, but lands much different and much less exploitative and gross feeling. And also, if I can get on my logistical nitpick,
please.
If Kane believes in Baltar's techniques enough that she's basically, just giving him what he wants to get results because the interrogation tactics of Thorn haven't worked, why is he even being allowed to do it? And I'm not saying Kane gives a crap about Toomer as a person. She doesn't. She doesn't see Toomer as a person. But, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. And I'm not saying you can't explore that. You can, because, again, the reality is, torture didn't work either, but the fucking CIA kept doing it. So, there's something you could do there. But I would also say, in the moment, if you're not going to actually tackle that, then it does actually beg the question, why was he even headed over there to do it anyways?
I think it's the power fan. It sets up other plot things, but
it's what lends itself to the exploitative feel of that scene.
Yes.
That it feels like it's not fully just, again, makes sense, is not illogical, but also I don't think is actually necessary or fully narratively justified.
Yes. Well, moving on from that, because Thorn was killed, Chief and Hilo are going to be taken.
And also, sorry, one last thing. It also doesn't help that ultimately the purpose of this logistically within the narrative is to drive the wedge between Adama and Kane. And to do it over the fate of the two men. And again, narratively, yes, she is a Cylon. She's not a human being. But vibes.
Yeah.
We're going to assault a woman to drive two guys to make a decision that will thereby push the decision of another man.
Yes. And we don't return to Toomer at all after this point. So
no, we don't.
Yep. Anyways, yes. So Hilo and Chief are being taken off to the Pegasus as prisoners. Adama calls Kane, and he basically says they should be court-martialed on the Galactica. I think they're my men. And Kane makes the argument is no, they should be trying over here. My guy was killed. Thorn was the one that was killed. And Adama says, well, we both have strong feelings about this case. We should do an independent tribunal. And Kane brings up the point, well, you dissolved last time you did an independent tribunal, you set the precedent that you can dissolve it. And he argues it was a different time. But I do really like this because it comes back to bite him in the ass.
I like that. I do like that it comes back to bite him in the ass. And she makes two very specific points about it. It's you called an independent tribunal and dissolved it the instant it gave you a result you didn't like. And that was also over Chief Tyrrell.
Yeah. So you're already biased over him as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is nice to see those choices come back and to have consequences later on.
Yeah, I know. I liked that a lot as well. Kind of pointing out Adama's hypocrisy to a degree as well. Then we get a quick little scene, or not a quick scene. It's another scene where Baltar comes into the other six's cell, tells the other crew members to get the fuck out, and then gives her bread and food. And then just sits down kind of far away from her and starts talking to her. And it says, like, the food is yours. It's not a trick. I'm not going to take away at the last second. I'm just going to talk to you. I don't expect you to say anything. And he basically just tells her, is like, there was a world. I forgot that I sometimes forget there's a world before the attack, but I knew a woman unlike any other woman I've ever known. Unique, clever. She was in my thoughts when not in my bed. And she turned out to be a Cylon, and she changed my life in a real fundamental way. And I never stopped thinking about her because I love her, and she looks exactly like you. My name is Gaius Baltar. I'm here to help you. And after hearing all of that, the other 6 takes an apple and eats it.
So it was interesting, my thought process on this. I'm not sure I buy that I'm not sure I buy that he even loves Head 6 or that he loved the 6 on Caprica. But I can buy that he has convinced himself that he did.
Yes, that would be my point as well. Yeah, I don't think what he has is necessarily love, but I think he thinks it's love.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And Head 6 a pretty good dumb mom, that could be love. I'm kidding.
Look,
I understand the appeal. And I know you do too.
But I will be really curious to see what they do with this 6, because in theory, he has just opened himself up massively to being fucked with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know he's using it as like a good cop tactic, but he did just expose a massive vulnerability that he has to her. And I'm not sure I have a preference for which way to go with it. And I think there's a way to botch either option. But I will be curious to see whether or not this 6 tries to take advantage of that or not.
We will see. We are then also, we jump over to Apollo on the Raptor with the Pegasus CAG. And Apollo sort of points out that he's distracted because the CAG is asking for jump coordinates. Apollo says distracted because 2 of my friends got charged with treason. And the Pegasus CAG says you should probably file that under not your problem because I need your head in the game.
Asshole.
Then we cut to Callie going to speak to Adama, and she says, he's a good man, sir. Speaking for the chief, he's going to have to stand trial, though, Adama's saying. And then Adama gets a call from the CIC, and he basically learns from Ty that the court-martial is over. And Adama's like, when did it start? And Ty says they've been found guilty on all counts for murder and treason. They're going to be executed. And Adama basically says, I want a Raptor strike team, launch all alert fighters. So, yeah, he's just like, fuck it. Here we go. And then back up on the bridge, Adama calls Kane, and he basically says, you told me they would get a fair trial. She said, I gave them a fair trial. I heard them out. I took into consider their service records. And Adama's like, well, they have a right to have their case heard. And she says, regulations give me broad authority here. And to which then Adama's like, all right, launch the fighters. And he's like, quote me any regulation you want. Won't let you execute my men. Please have Tyrell and Hilo ready to be handed over. And Kane's like, yeah, don't take orders from you. And he says, I'm getting my men. And then Kane hangs up and says, action stations launch Vipers. Her XO is hesitant. It's like, this is going to cause all hell to break loose. And she's like, left me with no choices. Target the main battery on Galactica. So we have the 2 ships facing off, all their Vipers facing up, and a to be continued.
Dun, dun, dun.
Bum, bum, bum. Any thoughts on that? Any of that sequence before I do spoiler minute?
No.
Alrighty then. I am going to talk about spoilers for the next 60 seconds. So if you do not want spoilers, just like Vera does not, you can jump ahead 60 seconds and Vera's going to give me 60 seconds on the clock.
And go.
So the biggest thing that I kind of want to just point out, because it is worth saying, is the fact that the 6 that is tortured on the Pegasus will be revealed. I don't know if it's next episode or when it is revealed, or if it's not even all the way until Razor where it's made explicit. I know it's implied in the next couple episodes because she's going to kill Cade, spoiler, in part 2 of the next 2 episodes. But that they were lovers. And so that Kane, and I think Gina is her ultimate name, is a lesbian who Kane has feelings for. And Vera, if you're not listening to the video podcast, Vera just put a pen in her boobs, so that's fun. But yeah, that's the major thing. I'm going to be curious to see how Vera takes that, because yeah, it is, number one, we're doing a bury your gays thing with both Kane and Gina getting killed, and then we also bury our gays later on with Gata, so like all the gays in the show getting killed, so we do that, but then it's also like this jilted lover lesbians thing, which I think is done for pathos on the show, but again, just reads weird with the queer aspect of it, but it goes into not being not true for Kane, so it's weird. So yeah. Alrighty.
Oh, it's weird, is it?
It's weird for Kane, that's all I will say. Anyways, what did you think about the episode overall?
Mixed.
Yeah.
I think the idea of bringing in somebody who outranks Adama was an interesting one. I'm not super compelled by the story they have chosen to tell with that. I think the speed at which it has gotten to the level of conflict that it has is just less interesting.
Mm-hmm. I actually, it is. Oh, sorry, please.
And I just am, again, since they are choosing to do they're just like us and you should have empathy for them as if they were human thing. If they're going to do that, I understand why they made the choices that they did. Still felt gross. Didn't like watching a chunk of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, what's interesting to me is, going through and learning about the production of this episode, about how they felt like they needed to cut back on it. Like they didn't have enough story to fill out 2 episodes. And I'm like, I really feel like you could have. I think it probably would have been better if you had given this a little bit more time to breathe and actually had to have this be 2 episodes of the Pegasus back before it escalated to this level of conflict. Because I think, again, you could have more with Rosalind. There's more stuff here.
I think it would have been really interesting to have the Cylons show up and they have to get through that situation and the chain of command works.
Mm-hmm.
And this structure could work. And then you have the conflict break it apart. And that would have lent an air of almost tragedy to it, of this could have been made to work, but now something has happened that there's no getting around this conflict, as opposed to just new outside force shows up and everything's fucked and now there's conflict. I'm like, well, yeah, that's kind of what I assumed was going to happen. I just kind of thought better of you than that.
Yeah, well, I think it is a product of this being an episode that was made to be a cliffhanger, to be the mid-season break. I think is the big problem here. Because if this was released today in today's production style, whereas everything's dropped all at once, I don't think we might have actually gotten a little bit more breathing room, I think, on it. I usually am not one to argue for the modern style of releasing episodes, but I think doing this as a mid-season break and needing to very clearly set up a cliffhanger, I think they rushed things a bit too much. To be able to try and force this conflict, especially as we'll see where things go in the next few episodes. It's kind of an interesting, weird tangle. So,
okay.
Yeah, it feels like there's ways these episodes could have been reorganized to have flowed better, I feel like. But they had to have their big conflict in the middle of it because it's the mid-season break. So. Yep. So I think that's the big thing. That being said, the one I agree with basically all of your points. I will say, rewatching this, I did like the characterization of Kane. I know you pointed out the show wants us to see her as an asshole, and she is an asshole. Don't get me wrong. I'm not standing for this woman or anyways. But I did like the fact that she is humanized to a degree. She's not an out and out just completely bwaha, I am the asshole commander. She is an asshole commander. But there is some humanization given to her that I found interesting and giving her interesting shades within that. So I will say that I do kind of like. So
there is a little bit of that there, but functionally within the narrative, she is
yes.
antagonistic force almost immediately.
Yes, for sure. But there are some good moments in it that I like. Again, it kind of speeds up a little bit too much. So, it's why I'm curious to see when we get to Razor as well, because that backstory. I'm curious to see how that's going to affect things too. I don't remember Razor too much. I remember Razor for the fun setups that it does for season 4, less for its actual narrative. You know what I mean? Because it has this sort of like, ooh, foreshadowing sort of things. So, yeah, we'll get there when we get there. All right. Anything else, Vera?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Stuff time.
Stuff! If you want to find my stuff, you can look for Council of Geeks. That will get you all the geeky stuff. Patreon pays the bills. The main thing that funds is the Council of Geeks YouTube channel, which has new videos every Saturday. It's been a lot of heavy topics lately. I'm hoping to start doing fun stuff again. I'd like that very much, but we'll see what happens. But if there's also the Break Room of Geeks, which is my secondary channel, which is looser and generally lighter, where I just talk about whatever I've watched, listened to, played, or read lately. You can also find Council of Geeks on Blue Sky. That's the main social media that I use, though even that I don't use all that often. And that is the geeky stuff. There's also, of course, the spicy stuff.
Of course, the spicy stuff.
And for that, you look for Vera Wild. Wild is spelled W-Y-L-D-E.
That's wild.
And you can find increasingly spicy content.
Increasingly spicy.
On YouTube. TikTok. Have fun.
You can find me at Jesse Gender on YouTube, which is my video essay style of stuff. Check out my most recent video, which is a video on the politics of forgetting. Please support that video. It didn't do super well in the algorithm, but I was very proud of it.
That is a very good video.
Thank you very much. I really am very proud of that one. Harder one. Said it made a lot of people cry for obvious reasons, but yeah, I'm very proud of that video. I will have also in the near future some videos on a bunch of different things. I'm depending on the order I'm going to release them in, but I'm going to have one on the Paramount Plus Skydance merger and how it affects Star Trek. Specifically, the angle I'm taking that is the how billionaires fucking love Star Trek and don't understand it, and how it kind of makes me nervous that literal really big Trump supporting billionaire is going to own it in just a little bit. So that'll be fascinating.
Have fun with that.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about like how Elon Musk fucking loves Star Trek and all of his bullshit. So we'll see just why billionaires fucking love Star Trek and all that jazz. So be on the lookout for that. I have one about the Ferengi, which I'm really proud of. That's going to be a longer video, a few other things. So there's a few videos on the horizon that I'm excited about. So check out that. A secondary channel called Jesse Gender After Dark, where I do news, reviews, reactions, where I'm reviewing Star Trek Strange New Worlds right now. I will be reviewing, actually probably by the time this starts, it'll be this week, I think. Alien Earth I'll be reviewing, and then also in the near future, Peacemaker Season 2. So be on the lookout for all of that. I am on Blue Sky and Instagram as the social medias that I use. I am also on Nebula, which is a streaming service that has my movie identities, as well as the show Subliminal that'll be coming out sometime next year that I directed an episode of. And then I am also on Patreon, which helps me pay my bills. So if you want to get videos early, all of that jazz, that'll be there for you. In fact, the Ferengi video is basically done and will be out on Patreon the week of this recording. So be on the lookout. So if you want, I will say this, the Ferengi video will not be out when you're hearing it. It will 100% be out on Patreon. It's a longer video, and I'm holding on it because I know it's not going to do super well. So I want to have a few videos that are going to do well before I release that motherfucker. So we'll get back to that one. So yeah, that's everything. So yeah, anything else, Fear?
Nah.
Alrighty then. With all that said, I hope you all live long and prosper.
Be seeing you.
All right.